Welcome to a new episode of Business Meets Life. Oh my gosh, look at this beautiful view. We are here at amazing Olivetto, a beautiful Italian restaurant in Sydney and specifically in Rhodes with amazing Rosa Romeo.
Hello.
Monday morning. How has your Monday started so far?
Well, good. As you can see, a glorious day today. And, it's a day off, but this is a pleasure to be here with you today on this podcast.
Oh my gosh. So it's her day off and she still decided to come to work and to be with us, guys.
Yes, of course.
Now, a little bit more about Rosa. So I actually met her. It was hilarious. With two Chinese friends, we came here for dinner. The first impression I had, she had the most amazing humor. Of course, she's beautiful. She was so intelligent. I could see it from the start, but it was like a beautiful way. I'm a people person, so usually when I go to restaurants or anywhere, or I usually go for the people. So I can't wait to come back very soon. And I knew this lady has to be on our podcast. She's a role model because she is a lifelong hospitality professional and a faith-driven entrepreneur based in Sydney, Australia for many years. Italian background, that's what we can see already. She's super pretty as well, right? With a career that began at the age of 16, helping to run a family business. Rosa has spent decades mastering every facet of the hospitality industry, from family-run operations to managing premium dining establishments. She currently serves as the general manager at Olivetto Ristorante e Bar in Rhodes. Excuse my bad Italian pronunciation.
It's just an eh.
Okay.
And
And it's basically an acclaimed Italian restaurant known for its contemporary cuisine, water views, as we can see, and very warm hospitality, guys. I can tell you this. Over the years, Rosa has built a reputation for exceptional leadership, team development, and creating memorable guest experiences. How long have you been working in this job, in this restaurant?
20 years.
20 years.
20
I mean,
years in August, yeah.
everyone has like such high employee turnover nowadays. Wow. But this is not it, guys. In a profound personal pivot, Rosa has recently founded Miso Pilgrimage, a company dedicated to guiding people on transformative faith journeys, drawing on her deep Catholic faith, her completion of a faith-driven leadership. I had never heard about that before. Missionary leadership course, and her decades of hospitality expertise. Rosa now helps others embark on pilgrimages that nurture spiritual growth and a self-discovery. Rosa is also an active committee member of a local chamber of commerce, reflecting her commitment to community connection and business growth beyond the restaurant walls. Wow, what a woman. Thank you so much for making time for us.
You make the mundane sound so much, but it's not really. It's just what it is, yeah.
Because you're, yeah, exactly, being you. Let's dig a little bit deeper into your origin story. So you started working in hospitality at age 16. Funny, actually, same for me.
Oh, wow.
And what was that first experience like? And what did it teach you about business and people?
Wow. Okay. So it was, being 16, I was thrust in, a family business, and, I was reflecting on it when I was thinking about, if this question came up, what would, how did I feel about it? And it was just like bringing home into a commercial site, so everything was, mum was there, dad was there, my brother was there. And then the employees were just extended family members, really. And we just ran it as if we were cooking the meal for people that were coming to visit, like it's what we do. I think, hence probably why it's such a, a duck in water kind of scenario. Like, we're Italian Europeans, we're renowned for being hospitable. And everyone that comes is always, food to be had,
Yeah.
So I think it was really just a seamless transition. And I think at 16, there wasn't really much thought process in it. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, I'm running a business with my family, and it was just something you did. And it just felt so natural, like I recall even like our cook leaving, and it was just kind of like, oh, you have to help mum in the kitchen. I'm like, well, I do it every day, so I was like 16, 17 and prepping food for, a business. So it was just yeah, like I said, it was just seamless. It just felt like a natural thing.
No certificates,
No,
papers,
no, you don't need
documents
that. You're
gotta
making
show.
sauce at like 10, or younger, in the garage with all the tomatoes and stuff. So there's no certificate required. It's just all heart, So I think anything that you do when you do it from the heart, qualifications can't compare.
What do you think? I mean, I'm German, right? I would say for every German, or probably a majority of foreigners, our favorite food is Italian food. I probably eat more Italian food as a German, even when I grew up, than actually German food with the family. What do you think makes actually the Italian hospitality so different from, I don't know, French, German, Chinese kind of restaurants?
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it? Because I'm not, I'm not from those other cultures, and I'd never want to, compare one culture that I'm unfamiliar with. Italian, European, Mediterranean cultures are pretty much all aligned. And there is a warmth in that. It's just, sitting around the table is where conversations are had and where relationships are built, and that's where I think people, once they're well fed, they can really feel comfortable to be themselves, or just to experience life, a different moment. And I think it just kind of relaxes everything. And I think because we pride ourselves on being together and making friends family, it's just us on a table. Like I think I can't speak for, like I said, the other cultures that I wouldn't, like,
Yeah.
we have a lot of cultural background, people that come here of other ethnicities, and we've learnt to adjust to understanding their culture. We have some, some Asian background where you pour the water and they won't talk to you, but they'll tap a hand.
Oh yeah, Chinese style.
Chinese, right? And it was like for years we're like, what are they doing? And then one day I was like, sorry, can you please explain? Because I've noticed that people, and they said it's our way of saying thank you without having to actually disrupt our conversation. I was like, wow, isn't that amazing? So like Italians are a little bit more carefree. We just kind of interrupt halfway, and, it all just happens as it goes. But it's like a lot to learn from other cultures, but I can't speak on why we're highlighted as such. I think it's just everyone's made to feel welcome. I think that it doesn't really matter where you're from. You become part of the family, and I think that's an Italian European thing.
That is so true. I mean, that's why we love going to Italian restaurants, right? You become, that warm touch. It's very caring.
Carbs are always, comfort.
Yeah.
We serve a lot of that.
That's true. So you've gone from helping a family business to managing other people's businesses. What are the biggest lessons you've carried with you throughout that journey?
Look, always be open to learn, and constructive criticism is a great thing. Don't be so hard on yourself either. Like I've always treated, coming from a family business, I've always treated everybody's business as my own.
Beautiful.
If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it wholeheartedly and as if it is mine. And sometimes that's applied. You apply a lot of pressure on yourself because you do know that it's not your business, but you treat it like your business, and yet sometimes you don't have, it's about letting go, because you don't have the control that you would in your own establishment, and you need to respect those boundaries of, hey, hang on a second, this isn't mine, and if they wish to make such and such a decision, you have to be able to run with it. But in saying that, I've always had exceptional leadership who have valued and really appreciated and respected my opinion. Obviously, making me management in I think every establishment that I went into afterwards. I think it was like a two-way street. We both learned from each other. So always welcome feedback, constructive, even unconstructive. Like it's always something to learn from it. And if it's not about yourself, it's about the other person.
Yes. Well, actually, this makes me think now that you've been the manager and you've run so many different businesses, have you ever thought about having your own Italian restaurant? Well, why have you chosen to rather be the GM instead of like being the owner of it?
Probably less stress in a sense. It gives me more focus on my leadership, which I love. I love getting to know people. I love getting to know my staff. I love, helping them become their best selves. So then, not only it benefits them, but it also benefits the business as well. When you can present income and show up every day like your best, or at least trying to be better than you were yesterday, it's always good. And and if I can help people on that journey into being an empath, you can tap into people's emotions, and you can understand where they're coming from, and they're never going to be good for you or your business if they're not good for themselves. So I think had I have gone open to business, that part of it would have been missed. And as I'm strong in my faith, I really do believe that God positions you where your purpose lies. What you can do, and what's better to what you can gain, or what glorifies Him as well. So success for me doesn't necessarily mean that I need to open my own business, or that I need to be a multi-millionaire. Like, success for me is if I can touch somebody and they're going to remember that, maybe something I said, or a way that they felt treated by me or received. That's already a success for me.
I can definitely not forget about our first conversation. So
it was a priceless one.
That's why I was like, wow, I need to have this lady on the podcast. And the more I got to know about you and all the different things and how you make an impact, I was like, wow, what a woman. And the nice thing is also, although you're the GM of this place, you're still going basically in the field. You go inside, like, you talk with the people, you still serve, you still take the tables, serve the wine, whatever is basically needed, next to you running your stuff. And I think that's also rare to see.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful touch. So, hospitality is notoriously demanding. Long hours, high pressure, people heavy. How have you sustained your passion for it across such a long career? Because I think nowadays people, they like to switch. They like to do lots of different kind of things. And I know you're doing other things as well.
Yeah. So in the 20 years that I've been here, I wasn't always management. I did start as function event coordinator, and then went into an accounts role after having children. So there was always a bit of a flip. I got to kind of mix it up a little bit. But there was always something missing. So I missed being on the floor. I missed being with the people. I missed being with the customers. Having that contact, helping create those experiences. People will always come back for a great experience. Food.
Oh yeah.
The food here is fantastic as well.
Oh,
it's amazing. But they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
So,
such a good reminder.
Knowing that I can do that, it's never a challenge. It's never every day. You always have a little laugh and say, God, what are you showing me today? When there's a customer who might be a little bit, difficult. But it's always something about how I can be better in responding to that person, and kind of softening them a little bit to help the experience. Instead of taking it personal. Nothing's personal.
Absolutely.
Everyone has their own thing, but how they project onto you is generally about them. It's very rarely about you yourself. So I think when it feels like it's not work, you can do it for the rest of your life.
I love it. When you feel like it's not work, you can do it for the rest of your life, and nothing is personal. I think this is such a good reminder as well. Let's take a little bit deeper. You just mentioned the family part as well, and turning points. Can you tell us about your faith journey? When did it become a central part of your life, and how did that transformation unfold? I think sometimes there's a trigger. I don't know if you had a moment like this and suddenly you're like, okay, this is how it happened for me. I suddenly realized while I was in China, okay, I'm going to quit my job and start my corporate safe job, start my own company in Shanghai as a soft skill leadership trainer, coach. And although I had no savings, became an entrepreneur in China. This wasn't the goal, or it just happened kind of.
Yeah, and
right?
That's usually how God works, right? It's never what we think; it's what He thinks.
Yeah.
Look, I've always been, the cradle Catholic, born and raised to believe. Are you showing my rosary?
No, it was kind of stuck on the top.
Oh, okay.
On the shirt.
But
it's nice.
Yes. So yeah, and you go. Everyone goes. The journey's different. You go in and out, up and down. And you get used to like the FPOS, Jesus. I want, and you start to pray. Please God, I need this or I need that. And having the children and wanting them to go to Catholic schools and not wanting to be the hypocrite, and you get involved in the committees and doing all these things that I gradually felt, wow, like I missed this, because we weren't going to church as often. Although the prayers were always there, I wasn't active. And that's not to say that anyone who goes to church or like you're not guaranteed a ticket into heaven. It's your heart. It's how you serve people, how you are in the world. Being examples of Christ in life. Anyone can go to church and still not have met Jesus. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think it was just a coming of age, maybe. It was a lot of people have their midlife crisis and go off the rails and buy cars or buy bags or feel the need to fill that void that they're oh my goodness, I'm coming of age and I haven't achieved this and this, or what makes me feel more value or more status quo kind of thing. And fortunately for me, I turned to faith, and there was issues in life, as you do, and I just remember him coming and ask. It was like a slow invitation. I started to hear the gospel more. I started going to church every Sunday. I started reading, when I didn't understand, the homily or what have you, or gospel passage that was being read. I started to, like the curiosity was like ramped up at 100. And so I was just like reading and researching and wanting more and more. It was like I was thirsty, when you're thirsty, this is a great thing to be thirsty of, So
what did you read and research?
I just, daily gospel readings, and if I didn't understand it, there'd be a breakdown of that you could further read and investigate, and then you start to apply it. It's amazing how you could read a book that was written how many years ago, and it's so relative to today, and it would touch on you every day, like you knew that you could apply it in some way, shape, or form, to what you were going through. And it was just a firm. I remember being provoked, and it was in that moment that I was like, God is number one in my life, and nothing is above it. And then from that day there, it just changed. It just, whatever I was seeking for, those people would come. I had a cousin who, I'd just done a leadership course before taking management here. And, I remember being in there, and I was, just on my journey with my faith, and I was there, and I was all Mary and Jesus, and, it was such a corporate setting, but at the end of the day, what the coach was trying to get to was love. And I took it there anyway, but in my way, and that's how I know love is through my faith. Jesus exemplifies what love is.
Yeah.
He shows, you love all. We you don't have to like everybody.
Yeah.
Surely don't have to like everybody, but you do love everybody, because we're all human. We're all
Beautiful.
Somebody.
So I'm curious. I lived in China for a long time. I lived in the US, in France, and I've never been really a church person, right? Although I have Protestant background. I remember one thing that I found very interesting in the US were all these like newer type of churches where the whole content, the singing, everything was kind of like modernized compared to like the very like traditional way of church, how I was raised or like saw it in Germany. And funnily, I just moved into a new place. It's next to the Chinese church. I've never even been to a Chinese church. And in China, more than 50% of people have no faith.
Yeah.
They have no religion. So what's Catholic Church in Australia like?
Well, so it is, progressing. Like, it is modernizing. There's a call to, evangelization again, and we've taken on some of the, the Catholic system had to take on some of the Protestants. Like they could read a Bible and quote a Bible more so than what was discovered, and I learned this through my course, was that Catholics just knew to do it. They didn't really understand the body of it. So you kneel and you you do the sign of the cross, and you say this prayer, but why are you doing it at those particular times? So there's become a bit more of an outreach in educating people as to why these things and what they mean and why we do them, what they represent.
Interesting. What is the why?
And with the habit, well, it's respect.
I see.
Yeah. So and when you're at, come to the altar, you bow to him. So yeah. But the music is, a great Christian movement, and it's praise and worship, and using your gift, and this is God's, he's giving you that voice, or that, gift of playing an instrument. I have a son who has a gift for piano, if only you realised it, But yeah, I think it's you need to move with it, and you need to, embody like the world and the community as it is. But there's still some things that won't change.
Yeah.
There'll always be, particular, parts of a mass that a priest cannot flip. Like there's
right.
Yeah. And the music, that's you get youth groups that they'll do the modern spin, which is great. But usually it's, it is still holding the tradition, but we are moving. We are moving with the times.
Yeah, that's great. So you've said that finding faith led you to a greater understanding of yourself and also purpose. What specifically shifted for you? What did you discover about yourself that you hadn't seen before?
Everything.
Everything
that I loved, that I'm, magnificently made. I am perfect in his vision,
Like self-worth, self-belief, self-confidence, self-esteem. It sounds like this, or
yes, but it's kind of like, what other people think of me doesn't matter, because I'm loved by God, so I don't need validation anywhere else. I'm the daughter of a king, so I'm a princess at some capacity,
Yeah.
And it's really funny, like, being in hospitality since I was 16. I always did it, always felt natural. I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
But when I came into my faith, and I realized, like, that's a charism in hospitality, in your faith, hospitality, being, serving people, serving the way Jesus. It didn't matter who you were and who was coming in the door. I mean, we get the bishops and we get everybody here, and to me, like, of course, the utmost respect, they're amazing people, and they have a rank, but they're people. We're all people, so whether you're, someone who can't afford, and you might come in and you might just have one little thing, and you're still here, you're still human. I still have to serve you the same, whether you dress like you're $1 million or you dress like you're 10. Everyone is the same, and our call is to just make everybody feel welcome. That's hospitality. Right. Give everybody an experience. Let everybody feel seen. This is hospitality. You come in, you take out a chair, you offer them water. That's and I didn't get it. We're called to lead. Servant leadership, and this is what he demonstrated to us. And I had no idea that this whole time that was, like, obviously one of my main charisms was, hospitality when I did the test. So it was like, wow.
It's interesting you mentioned servant leadership, because as a also leadership trainer, I would teach people about that more in a business sense. And now being a member of this private members club here in Sydney, I get to meet so many, like, highly successful business owners. And it was interesting, like, when we spoke, you're like, maybe you're not the right fit for this podcast. And I'm like, of course you are. Look at you, right? Because, like, at the end, I just want to, like, everyone's a person. Success has different definitions, right? And what you have achieved is just so inspirational. And I think so many people out there need inspiring people, need to meet them in lots of different kind of ways. And I've not spoken about faith on this podcast yet, so that's exciting. Going back to faith and leadership, right? You have completed this faith-driven leadership course. What was the experience like, and how has that specific type of leadership course actually shaped the way how you lead, both in business, in your life, maybe as a mom, maybe as a wife, as a friend, as a daughter? I'm not sure.
All of it. So, it just, I think the most craziest thing that happened, was at the first retreat that we had. So it ran for about 10 months, and every quarter you went on a retreat, and we had a talk. The conference was all about God's love for us. And when that's highlighted to you, and you finally it finally falls on you that you are loved, like your heart just swells, and then from there you understand that everybody's entitled to feel this. Everybody needs to know how much they're loved, and he shows us many ways how to extend ourselves in outreach to people, to humanity. And I learned, being a wife and a mother isn't just being a wife and a mother. It's your first ministry. So if you have that privilege of being a wife and being a mother, you're called to serve in that role first and foremost. And you just learn it different. Everything you do, it has a different meaning. It has a different flow. It has a different, and you can't sit at our table anymore at home and not be grateful for the person who made the food, the person who bought the food, the person who worked hard to get that money to get the food. How you go, so much gratitude. Everything comes with gratitude, and that changes everything that you do. When you've got gratitude for just the smallest of things, it changes everything. So with your family, as a daughter, like I have a role, as a daughter to care for my parents as well and to respect them. And although you grow up knowing this, feeling it and understanding it are two different things. When you just this is what you do. Everyone was an auntie. You grow up in these Italian cultures, and your next door neighbour was an auntie, and it was just a respect thing.
Yeah.
But understanding why we do that. Understanding that like I had my neighbours were Sri Lankan, and they were my grandparents, because my grandparents were in Italy and I didn't have them. And they didn't have grandchildren. So I was baby and they were grandma and grandpa. So I always tell the story that I was blessed that I had Sri Lankan grandparents.
My Chinese mother is about to join very soon and coming to Sydney.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So family isn't just blood. Family is who we involve in our lives, who touches us, who makes us feel like we're part of a family. And we get a lot of our customers that also do that. They come in, they've been coming here since their kids were kids, and now their kids have gotten married and had kids, and they're bringing their kids, and they can come by themselves, or they can come as a family, and they just say, we love coming here because we feel like family.
Oh, I agree.
Like
I felt it immediately.
And that's
gotcha.
goal. That's not ticking of a box, but it's ticking of a big, purpose.
Yes.
If people can come into your business and feel like they're at home.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Nice seeing you. Thanks for joining us here. I hope you also feel the love on the other side. And I mean, like, your big smile when I came to your amazing restaurant, Olivetto. Highly recommend it if you guys are in Sydney. That smile, I could feel the love, the gratitude, the charisma, the passion. It was just, you felt welcome. You felt like you're at the right spot. Let's talk a little bit more about Miso Pilgrimage. I'm not sure if I actually pronounced it correctly
Miso,
now. So it's basically business of meaning. Tell us about it, and also what exactly is it? What inspired you to start it? And this is your own company now, right?
It is. It's still like, sitting quietly in the background a little. But it was during one of the lectures, while I was doing my course, and we're talking about Missio Day, which is, God's mission, how he calls his people. And I'd been toying with this idea since going to Medjugorje myself on pilgrimage in 2023 with my cousins. And I remember the experience, Medjugorje itself was, unbelievable, peaceful, second, I can't wait to be there all the time, I just want to be there. But the pilgrimage experience itself and the business, it didn't quite land for me. Someone who's been in hospitality, the company didn't kind of meet
Your expectations.
my expectations per se. You know, I would have, you know, it just highlighted a few things that I, you know, I would have appreciated had they have occurred. And I remember we left Medjugorje, was sitting in Rome. You know, when in Rome, you know, you're sitting on the cobblestones outside your Airbnb in the middle of, you know, in the middle of Rome City.
Haven't been yet, unfortunately.
Oh no, you have to. It's crazy. And I was talking to my cousins and I'm like, we should start a pilgrimage company. Like, we can do this. And they're like,
we can do this
and
even
they're like,
better.
no, you can do this, not for me. And God calls you all different, you know, like everyone has their own purpose. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you'd be great at that. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I was always toying with this idea. And, you know, I'm a little bit of a, as much as I can procrastinate a little, I also have this little thing inside me going, don't tell me I can't do it. You know, don't tell me I can't, you know. I think I can. You know, a bit of a Thomas the Tank, you know, I think I can, you know. And so it just sat there, you know, and it was, you know, I really wish I could do it. I think this is something, you know, like it was niggering, you know, it just sat there and it was, you know, and then in one of the
entrepreneurs coming out.
and then in one of the lectures I was like listening and I kind of went off to the side and next thing you know I'd created this company, Miso Pilgrimage. And it was just about, you know, I remember the caption being a journey to the sound of peace, or a pilgrimage to the sound of peace, a journey of the heart with Rosa.
Beautiful.
And it just kind of went, wow, this feels right. So then I, you know, went off and shared it with, you know, a few people and they were like, yes. And so I, you know, I think I launched it a little bit too quickly, and that's when you know, you're not trusting God and you're trusting anxiety, and you know, like I kind of panicked and went, if I don't launch it now, I won't get the people in time to go when I want to go, and blah blah blah. So I was trying to control the outcome a little bit. But I did go. And I did only go with 3 people, but yet it was still pilgrimage. And then on one of the sites is Cross Mountain, and I remember starting at the base, and it was just me reading, you know, the first station, and then as I turned around after having completed that, there were like, by this point, one of the other ladies had left. It was 2 of us, and there was like 8 other people behind me, and my goal was to have 10 people. So by the time I got to the top of the mountain, I had 10. We were a group of 10. So it was almost like God was showing me, it's just my time, not yours, you know, but it is possible.
Interesting.
So upon returning, I was also blessed with meeting the CEO of Harvest Journeys, who's one of Australia's leading pilgrimage companies, who have now invited me to lead their Medjugorje tours.
Well done.
So yeah, so you know, Miso is still Miso, and it's not exclusive to just pilgrimage to sites. It's pilgrimage even today. You know, you're walking a journey with somebody, walking and sharing a story of faith, or you know, showing Jesus to somebody, kindness, and you know.
Which brings me exactly back to like the basics, the foundation. To be honest, if you ask me what is a pilgrimage, I'm not sure if I would actually really know what it is. I'm kind of thinking about like, I think like even part is in Germany, like the Jacob path or so that people walk. Isn't it partly also France and Spain?
That's
like,
right, yeah.
And then I'm kind of like thinking about like Julia Roberts, like going to Bali, eat love, right? Yeah. So like, what does a pilgrimage actually look like? Or now I'm also thinking about, and it's probably a hike. So for you probably do it for 40 days. Like what
that would
does
be
a
like the El Camino. That's a traditional. That's a traditional.
But yeah, see, I don't even know what exactly is it. Like, what does it look like? Like, where do people go? Can you do this like in Australia, or do you actually need to go to Europe, or what do they experience? Like, I mean, it sounds like also motivational quotes on this path that you're hiking.
Of course. It's like being in the desert, right? When you're alone, like, you know, when you're focused on, you know, it's just like, imagine going for a walk. You know, one of the most beautiful things I did in Medjugorje, you know, like Apparition Hill is where, you know, the children, the visionaries saw Our Lady, right? Now you do the hike and you get up to the statue where there's a statue of Our Lady where she appeared. Now that's all beautiful and it's great and you do it, but sometimes the most beautiful moments are walking the streets and you know, going into a cafe and having and someone's sitting there and you share a moment with that person. That's pilgrimage too.
Oh, is it?
Well,
I've had this many times.
It's the journey, right? It's the journey. It's you going from here to somewhere and sharing that path with somebody and sharing a Christ-like moment with somebody. You know, accompaniment. You know, that's pilgrimage too. It doesn't just have to be.
Who did I ask you?
Yeah, but here, you know, in Sydney, you can do pilgrimage of churches. You know, you can go to retreat centres. There's, you know, a lot of different things.
But it's all combined with faith?
It's the foundation.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Luckily, I asked. So, what kind of person typically joins your in general, like a pilgrimage? And are they searching for something specific, or does the journey itself reveal it?
Journey itself will definitely reveal it. Some people are well aware. Some people, you know, are seeking that. They know that they want to experience, you know, anything closer to God, anything closer to, you know, heaven. We say, you know, like when you're there, you just, it's surreal. You know, like you just feel. It's like, you know, it's funny. I was saying to a customer the other day. It's like, you know, people say, yeah, but you don't have to go to these places to be with God. You know, God's everywhere. He's in you. You know, so wherever you are, there is God, right? I said, but you know, imagine going to a football game and you've got 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. All chanting for that same team. Imagine how that feels.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what pilgrimage can be like.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And there's skeptics that go. There's people that are dragged along the way, you know, come with me, I don't want to go by myself. Yeah, it's a holiday, you know, like you can. But once you're there, it's up to him. You know, it's like you can lead the horse to the water, but it's up to the horse to drink. But, you know, sometimes God will allow that to happen as well.
Can you share a story of maybe one of those critics or a specific person whose life was genuinely changed by a pilgrimage?
A specific one may work. I think even myself, but you know, doubters. You there's many. You know, you can watch a lot of YouTube videos and read up a lot of, you know, atheists becoming Catholics. You know, Muslims converting.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, I can't give you a specific, but yes, there are many a story that, you know, people have gone there. You know, I know that I think there was a I'm not sure what year it was, but they ran a competition for people to win a trip to Medjugorje to go on pilgrimage. And, you know, you had to say why you would want to go and yada yada. Some people were there, they did not believe at all. By the end of it, they came out believers. You know, so it's conversion. You know, like it's your heart. You just have to open your heart to it. And you have to be ready for it. But there's plenty of stories.
Beautiful. Let's switch over a little bit the topic. So you're managing a restaurant, running a pilgrimage company, sitting on your local chamber of commerce, right? Mm-hmm. But your mom, your wife, your friend, and you have basically so many roles. How do you manage all of that, and what drives you to stay involved at every level?
Well, the Chamber of Commerce was something I always, you know, was another one of those little niggling things that when we had our business when I was, you know, 16, we were part of, you know, we're in Concord, so, you know, it's where I grew up, which is, you know, back in the area now. And, you know, there was always this particular lady, you know, she was like a standout, you know, she was one of these women in community, she was just beautiful, she just brought everyone together, she was just so knowledgeable, and you know, she's moved with heart, you know, everybody knew her. And I remember bumping into her, and I was like, oh, you know, I'm so in awe of you, like what you do. And, you know, she's so humble, she's, you know, like, oh, man, how do they do it? And I remember always wanting, like, aspired to be a bit like that, you know. And one day I was walking into a coffee shop, the local coffee shop, and they were all there having their Chamber of Commerce meeting, and she's like, oh, come sit with us. Like, I think you need to join, you know. And I think, you know, I'm at a point in my life where it's by invitation, you know. So I look at invitation is you're called to be somewhere, you know, you're asked to be there. It's not me wanting
Yeah.
It's me being invited.
Mhm.
So I now sit and wait.
Like with the podcast, right?
Right with the podcast.
I kind of like even had to like drag her. Rosa, please come on, do it. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like you know, another thing that happens when you walk in your faith journey is you do lose a lot. You lose a lot. You know, so Jesus says, "I didn't come to bring peace; I came to create division," and that's in the sense of once you walk in His light, not everyone is going to walk with you, and you have to be prepared to lose a lot of things. So you do lose a lot along the way, and then everything that comes back is because it aligns with who you've become.
Yeah.
And that's, people talk about universal,